PC gaming is way too expensive. I'll never be able to get into it because I can't afford the highest end hardware to run the games I want to play. But do you need a 4090 just to play Minecraft? I mean, do you need a Ferrari just to go to the grocery store?
But Bentley, I don't know anything about computers. I wouldn't even know where to start.
Well, don't worry. I do. And I'm going to break down this build for you. I have a PC build that costs under $700 that can play all esports titles and pretty much any single player game at playable FPS. You're not going to be rocking 4K, but do you really need to do that? Do you need to go 200 miles an hour just to get to the grocery store? The most amazing thing about this computer too is it's scalable, not just in performance, but also has room to add a lot more storage down the line if you need to. We're going to go ahead and look at what this computer is capable of doing first so you know what you're getting yourself into. Then we'll talk about what components I chose and why I chose them. After that, we're going to talk about how it's scalable down the line. Then we'll go over where you can get one just like it or how to build one of your own. That's right, you might be building your very first computer very soon. Now, of course, we're going to be starting with Fortnite. That is the #1 game that everybody wants to play, right? So let's jump in here and take a look at what we can do. As you can see, we're well above 60 FPS. We're actually on average at about 118, which is great. I mean, it's 1080p low settings, but do your kids really need 4K Fortnite? Probably not. Now, you will notice it can be a little stuttery jumping in, which is actually where we get our low from, is going to be dropping into the map. It will take a little hit to the FPS, but once you're on the ground, you shouldn't notice any issues. Moving on to Valorant, you'll see that it does really well here also. We're boasting well over 100 FPS, generally speaking. Our average is 137, so on 1080p low, we're pushing the 144 Hertz, which is going to be great. This actually serves as a very competitive frame rate for a game like Valorant. So if you're into esports, this is a great budget build. As you can see here, it also runs Counter-Strike very well. The settings on here are a little lower, however this benchmark was done on medium and not low. What people don't really seem to realize is most companies that are creating esports games, they like to make the minimum requirements very low to increase the amount of people that can get into the scene. So no, you really don't need that high-end hardware just to compete in esports. A couple more games this PC can run very well are going to be Overwatch as well as Rocket League. And if you're into these games and want to compete in some friendly tournaments, I highly suggest jumping into the Frost esports server. I'll leave the link down below to their Discord. It's an awesome place. They run tons of tournaments, so hop on in and show us your skills if you think you have any. Another game that's super popular even to this day, Grand Theft Auto 5. There's tons of active servers still. A lot of people do GTA roleplay, and this computer can handle it. On high settings, you're averaging around 47 FPS, and if you don't mind sacrificing a bit of graphic quality for some performance, you can easily get a 60 FPS average in this game. Looking at Forza Horizon here, we're locking in an average 59 FPS on low, so you can get in and race with your friends without having to, spend thousands of dollars on a car to go do some rallycross. You can do it from the comfort of your couch. Assassin's Creed Valhalla does struggle a little bit. We're averaging 27 FPS on low. However, having high FPS is a lot more important in esports titles or multiplayer games where you need that fast reaction time. It's not quite as bad in single player games where you're just kind of trying to relax and have fun. Especially in Assassin's Creed, it's mostly a story-based game anyway, so I feel like the FPS doesn't matter all that much. You'll notice it's similar in Red Dead Redemption 2 here. However, this scene right here is one of the most graphically intense. So you'll notice we're locking in about 23 FPS during this scene. However, you can see here that the average is 74 FPS. So generally running around the map, you'll be above the 60 FPS rate. It's just in intense situations like this, you will struggle a little bit. The last game we're going to showcase here is Control. This PC can actually run this game fairly well. It does have a little bit of spikes and drops in the FPS. However, having played it myself, it's just kind of the game. It is a little bit spiky. Still definitely worth a play, and if you haven't heard of it, or you're maybe on the fence about playing it, I actually did a podcast with a couple of my buddies reviewing this game if you want to check that out. Link in the description down below. Going into this, I just knew that the Ryzen 5 5600G would be my #1 pick for the CPU because it has the integrated GPU inside of it. It's rocking the Vega 7 graphics, which is how we're able to run all these games without a dedicated graphics card. So on top of having integrated graphics in it, the 5600G is a pretty decent CPU. We're looking at 6 cores at 3.9 gigahertz base clock. It is overclockable. You can hit up to 4.4 gigahertz. I generally don't overclock my hardware just because I like it to last a little bit longer. You're looking at 6 cores, 12 threads, which is pretty decent. Several years ago, we were looking at Intel i7 CPUs that were quad cores. Now we're looking at a mid-level CPU that's rocking 6 cores inside of it. I did some research, and the best AM4 socket motherboard I could find with all the features that we wanted was the ASUS A520M Plus motherboard. Again, we're not shooting for top of the line here, but this motherboard does come with an NVMe SSD slot for some pretty fast storage and really fast boot times. On top of that, if we want to add more storage later, it does have 4 SATA ports that support 6 gigabits a second bandwidth, which is pretty nice. What are we going to put in that NVMe slot? We want something that's fast, affordable, and reliable. You don't have to look too far, you just got to get a Silicone Power SSD. These guys are amazing. They've been in the business for a long time. I've been using them ever since I discovered them 2 or 3 years ago. They go in all my builds. I'm actually a partner with them for my local repair shop. I use Silicone Power storage devices in all of my gaming builds. I use them anytime people come in for upgrades for solid states, anything like that. They're really great, can't go wrong with them. And just in case something does go wrong with them, they do have a 5-year warranty for factory defects. Obviously, if you like break it with a hammer or something, that's definitely going to void your warranty. This video isn't sponsored, by the way. I am partnered with them, and I'm partnered with them because I truly do love their products. I would not be able to do what I do if I didn't have that partnership with them, allowing me to get these components for a really great price. They're my go-to for RAM as well, pretty much all my memory solutions. I picked up some DDR4 3200 megahertz RAM from them to use in this build, which is great with that 5600G. It does support it very well. With our memory taken care of, let's look at how we're going to cool our 5600G CPU. It does come with a stock cooler that I have found to be pretty decent at keeping the temperatures under control. I generally, though, like to keep CPUs running as cool as possible, so I usually pick up an extra CPU cooler. This one here is an extra 20 bucks, so not a whole lot to throw into the build, plus it adds a little bit of style as well. Sticking with the theme of keeping cool, let's take a look at what case we're going to use for this build. Now you can use pretty much any case you want. I like to go with Musetex cases for 2 reasons. They're a great company with great product. They always come to me shipped, packaged very well. I've never had any issues with delivery, order speed, or any damaged products or anything. They use full-size cases. That's something very important when building a computer. You need to make sure that your components are going to fit inside of the case. The other thing is cooling. Pretty much all of their cases come with 6 fans installed, and they are RGB, which, again, gamers love the RGB. I will say I've looked into buying case fans and a case without fans to install them myself, and it's actually not worth it. A lot of the times, I can buy a Musetex case that comes with 6 fans for less money than I could buy a case without fans and the set of fans. And then I'd still have to install them, so that just doesn't make sense to me. I just go with them. And even if you're somebody who doesn't want all the RGB lights in their system, maybe you're not a fan of it, there's an option to just turn them off. So you can still use an amazing case with 6 pre-installed fans and just click a button to turn off those annoying lights if that's not your thing. The last essential component we have to cover for this build is going to be the power supply, because you're going to need power to power up that gaming PC. I went with this power supply here that'll be linked in the description. It's a bronze rated PSU. If you don't know what the rating system is for power supplies, I actually have a short video explaining it, so if you want to find out more about that, check out that video. This one I went with is 500 watts, which is plenty for this PC, and it is non-modular, meaning you can't add any more cables to it later on down the line. That said, even if you wanted to add a graphics card to this build later on, it does have the PCIe cables that you need. Wait, add a graphics card? I thought you said we didn't need to add a GPU because it's integrated into the CPU. And it is. However, I keep mentioning that this build is scalable, and one of the easiest ways that you can scale this build up is by buying a dedicated GPU. You'll just have to put it in there, download the drivers, and you're good. Now, downloading drivers is way easier these days than it used to be. If you're running an NVIDIA graphics card, you just download GeForce Experience, make an account, it's free, and it will install the drivers for you. Similar thing for AMD, which you'll already have the AMD Adrenalin software on your computer if you have the 5600G. So then whenever you add in a AMD graphics card, you just install the new drivers, and you're all set. Now that said, if you are planning on adding a GPU down the line, 500 watts is enough for the RX 6600 as well as the 6650, which are both really decent graphics cards. Some people do prefer NVIDIA graphics cards, and the equivalent NVIDIA graphics card to the Radeon ones would be an RTX 3060 Ti. That GPU does require more power than the 6600 or 6650, so if you're planning on going with NVIDIA, I would grab a 600 watt power supply. If you've made it this far, I think it's pretty safe to say you're at least somewhat interested in a computer like this one. I do sell these builds out of my local shop, but most of you probably aren't going to be local to the Summerville, South Carolina area. However, if you are, feel free to swing by. We do phones, tablets, computers, pretty much anything. Just bring a device in. We'll take a look at it for you for free. So coming in and buying one from me locally probably is out of the question. As for shipping them, right now I don't have a website up where I just ship them out, you know, at the ready. But if you do want to DM me or email me at Bentley's Budget Builds, we can discuss it there and see about maybe getting one built and shipped out to you. The other option is, I don't mind throwing a couple links down below of some computers with very similar specs in terms of pre-builds. You could also go and try to find one yourself, Amazon, Newegg, Best Buy, however you want to do it. Definitely a fine choice. Only thing I would say with pre-builds is sometimes some companies do cheap out on some components. The other thing with buying from corporations like that is while they do get discounts for buying components in bulk, one of the reasons that I'm able to sell computers cheaper in my local area than say Best Buy is because I only have to pay myself, right? Best Buy not only has to pay everybody that assembles the computers and everything, then they have to pay the shipping costs to get them to the location, then they're paying sales reps and everything, everybody that's employed at the store, whereas I just kind of run it on myself. So higher profit margins, however, it does limit the amount that I can make, so a bit of an issue there. As for option number 3, remember at the start of the video when I said you might be building your very own computer soon? Well, I'll have links to all of the exact same parts that this computer is made of in the description, and I'm working on a video of me putting that one together. I also happen to know somebody else who is very passionate about computers and tech, and unbeknownst to each other, we were both working on the same build essentially at about the same time. So that should say something to the credit of the 5600G CPU of 2 separate people into tech. I think it's a great budget build. The Middle of Knowhere, he has a great video. It's very long, it's like a 50-minute video, but he goes super in depth on every single component, and he's also doing a video on how to assemble it that is just as long. So if you want something step by step, I'm gonna leave the link to his video as well if you want to build that. Expect mine to come out soon. It will be a lot shorter, and I'll also be doing a quick video on how to install Windows, you know, everything you need to do in the BIOS. That'll be a nice step-by-step. It really doesn't take too long. It's pretty much just plug USB in, next, yes, accept, finish. My brother had me installing Windows on PCs when I was like 6, because you just kind of have to, and then you're good. And I know building a computer seems very daunting, and it seems like it's going to be very difficult, but I promise it's super easy. So easy that it's almost as easy as hitting the like and subscribe button, so you don't miss any more videos just like this. Also, check out the Facebook page of Bentley's Budget Builds. I have a lot of short reels on there that are a bunch of behind-the-scenes repair work that I think a lot of you might enjoy. So go check that out. You can learn a couple things like how to change out the water in your liquid cooling system. Maybe you want to know what the intricacies of that are before you get one. And absolutely, if you're somewhere local, please feel free to come in and say what's up. Just, it's 1204 North Main Street. Follow the computer and all the tech signs. You'll find the building that's full of all the nerds. See you guys.